Imagine becoming one of the biggest artists on the planet, selling out stadiums within minutes, breaking streaming records that no one thought were possible, owning a multi-million-dollar mansion, a custom Boeing 767 known as Air Drake, and building a fortune worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Today, Drake is more than just a rapper. He's a global brand, a cultural icon, and one of the most successful entertainers of the 21st century. But none of this was guaranteed. Long before the sold-out world tours, before the luxury lifestyle, and before millions of fans sang every word of his songs, he was just a kid from Toronto, raised by a single mother, trying to find where he belonged. His first taste of success didn't come through music at all. It came from acting on a Canadian teen television show. For most people, that would have been enough. A steady paycheck, national recognition, a stable career. But Drake wanted something bigger. He walked away from the security that many people spend their entire lives chasing, to pursue a dream with no guarantees. It was a decision that could have ended his career before it ever truly began. Instead, it became the first step toward building one of the most remarkable success stories in modern music. This is the story of how a kid from Toronto became one of the biggest superstars in the world, and built an empire far beyond music. Part 1. A childhood that shaped him. Long before the world knew him as Drake, he was simply Aubrey Drake Graham, born on October 24, 1986, in Toronto, Canada. At first glance, his childhood seemed ordinary. But behind the scenes, life was far from easy. When Drake was just 5 years old, his parents divorced. His father, Dennis Graham, a drummer from Memphis, Tennessee, returned to the United States, while Drake stayed in Toronto with his mother, Sandy Graham, an English teacher. From that moment on, it was just the two of them. Money was often tight, and there were times when his mother struggled to make ends meet. Drake has spoken openly about watching her work tirelessly to provide for him while dealing with serious health problems later in his life. Seeing those sacrifices left a lasting impression. Growing up, Drake also struggled to fit in. He attended schools where he often felt different from those around him. Being biracial and coming from a modest household made him feel like he didn't fully belong in any one group. While other kids searched for acceptance, Drake found comfort somewhere else. Entertainment. Whether it was music, movies, or performing in front of people, he loved making others pay attention. It gave him a confidence that everyday life often couldn't. But dreaming of success and achieving it were two very different things. No one around him could have predicted that this quiet kid from Toronto would one day become one of the most recognizable artists on earth. And before music gave him that opportunity, an unexpected role on a television show would change his life forever. Part 2. The acting job that changed everything. As Drake entered his teenage years, life presented him with an opportunity that many aspiring performers only dream of. At just 15 years old, he was cast in the Canadian television series Degrassi, The Next Generation, playing Jimmy Brooks, a talented basketball player whose life changes after a tragic school shooting leaves him in a wheelchair. The show quickly became one of Canada's biggest teen dramas and gained an international audience. For Drake, it meant something even more important: a steady paycheck. While many teenagers were focused on school, Drake was helping support his household. The income from Degrassi eased some of the financial pressure on his mother, allowing him to contribute at an age when most kids couldn't. From the outside, it looked like he had already made it. He had a successful acting career, growing recognition, and a future that seemed secure. But deep down, something was missing. Whenever filming ended, Drake wasn't thinking about his next acting role. He was writing lyrics, recording songs, and dreaming about becoming a rapper. At the time, that dream seemed almost impossible. The music industry was fiercely competitive, and very few artists from Toronto had broken into the American hip-hop scene. To many people, leaving a successful television career to chase music sounded reckless. But Drake couldn't ignore the feeling. Acting had given him an opportunity. Music, he believed, was his purpose. So while cameras rolled during the day, he spent his nights building a career that almost no one believed would succeed. It was a gamble that would change his life forever. Part 3. Betting everything on music. While millions of viewers knew Drake as an actor, almost no one knew he was quietly building a second career. Every free moment outside of filming was spent in recording studios, writing lyrics, and searching for his own sound. Instead of following the traditional path into hip-hop, Drake mixed emotional storytelling with melodies, creating a style that felt different from what dominated rap at the time. In 2006, he independently released his first mixtape, Room for Improvement. It received little attention. A year later came Comeback Season, which showed clear progress and began generating buzz online. One song in particular, Replacement Girl, became the first music video by an unsigned Canadian rapper to air on BET. It wasn't enough to make him a star, but it proved he had potential. Then, everything changed. Jas Prince, the son of music executive James Prince, heard Drake's music and immediately recognized something special. He introduced Drake to one of the biggest names in hip-hop, Lil Wayne. Wayne was impressed. Not long afterward, he invited Drake to join his tour, giving an unknown artist the chance to perform in front of massive crowds across the country. For Drake, it was the opportunity he had been waiting for. He accepted without hesitation. In 2009, after years of balancing acting and music, Drake officially signed with Young Money Entertainment. It was a defining moment. He was finally surrounded by some of the biggest artists in the industry, but signing a record deal didn't guarantee success. He still had to prove he belonged. Just weeks later, he released the mixtape that would change everything. So Far Gone. The project exploded in popularity, fueled by songs like Best I Ever Had and Successful. Almost overnight, Drake transformed from a television actor with musical ambitions into one of the most talked about new artists in the world. The gamble had paid off. He had walked away from the safety of acting. And now, there was no turning back. Part 4. Becoming the biggest artist in the world. Breaking into the music industry is difficult. Staying at the top is even harder. After the success of So Far Gone, many critics wondered whether Drake was simply another rising artist who would eventually fade away. He answered those doubts with his first studio album. In 2010, Thank Me Later debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, proving that his breakout success wasn't a coincidence. It was only the beginning. Over the next decade, Drake released hit after hit. Take Care. Nothing Was the Same. Views. Scorpion. Each project expanded his audience, shattered streaming records, and dominated music charts around the world. But Drake wasn't just releasing popular songs. He was changing what a rapper could sound like. Instead of separating rap from melody, he blended the two together. His music became more emotional, more personal, and more versatile, allowing him to move effortlessly between hip-hop, R&B, dancehall, Afrobeats, UK drill, and pop. Some fans loved the evolution. Others criticized it. Drake kept evolving anyway. That willingness to adapt became one of his greatest strengths. As the music industry shifted from CDs to streaming platforms, Drake was perfectly positioned for the new era. His songs consistently became some of the most streamed in the world, breaking records on Spotify, Apple Music, and Billboard. Soon, breaking records became routine. He accumulated hundreds of charting songs, multiple Grammy Awards, dozens of Billboard Music Awards, and more weeks on the charts than almost any artist before him. While many musicians enjoyed one great album, Drake managed to stay at the top year after year. What truly separated him wasn't a single hit, it was consistency. For more than a decade, he remained one of the biggest names in music while an entire generation of artists rose and fell around him. By that point, Drake had achieved something very few entertainers ever do. He wasn't just a successful musician anymore. He had become a global brand. And that opened the door to something even bigger than music itself. Part 5. Building an empire beyond music. By the mid-2010s, Drake had already accomplished what most artists spend a lifetime chasing. He had fame, awards, and millions of fans around the world. But Drake understood something that many celebrities never do. Music could make you rich. Ownership could make you wealthy. Instead of relying only on album sales and concerts, he began building a business empire that stretched far beyond the recording studio. One of his first major ventures was OVO, short for October's Very Own. What started as a simple blog and clothing line quickly evolved into a global lifestyle brand. Soon after came OVO Sound, his own record label, giving him the ability to help develop new artists while expanding his influence in the music industry. Then came partnerships with some of the world's biggest companies. His collaboration with Nike led to the launch of Nocta, a clothing brand inspired by late-night city life. Unlike a typical celebrity endorsement, it became a long-term business partnership, adding another stream of income to his growing empire. Drake also invested heavily in real estate. His mansion in Toronto, often called the Embassy, became one of the most recognizable celebrity homes in the world, featuring a regulation-size basketball court, recording studio, and extravagant custom designs that reflected the success he had built. Even his travel became part of his brand. In 2019, Drake revealed Air Drake, a customized Boeing 767 valued at hundreds of millions of dollars, turning what was once an impossible dream into one of the most recognizable symbols of his success. Beyond that, he expanded into whiskey, endorsements, entertainment partnerships, and other business ventures, proving that his career wasn't dependent on releasing another hit song. Every new opportunity strengthened his brand. Every investment diversified his income. By this point, Drake wasn't simply earning money from music. He had created an ecosystem where his name itself generated value. But as his wealth and influence continued to grow, so did the pressure. Because the bigger the superstar, the bigger the target. Part 6. Rivalries, Controversies, and the Price of Success. The higher Drake climbed, the more people wanted to see him fall. Success brought wealth, influence, and worldwide recognition, but it also placed him under constant scrutiny. Every song, every interview, every decision was analyzed by millions. One of his first major controversies came in 2015, when fellow rapper Meek Mill accused Drake of using a ghostwriter. In hip-hop, where authenticity is everything, the accusations threatened his credibility. Instead of staying silent, Drake responded through music. His diss track, Back to Back, became a massive hit, earning praise from fans and critics alike. Rather than damaging his career, the feud strengthened his reputation as someone willing to defend his place at the top. But an even bigger challenge was still ahead. In 2018, rapper Pusha T released a diss track claiming that Drake had a son he had kept out of the public eye. The revelation spread across the internet within hours. It became one of the biggest stories in music that year. For the first time in years, Drake found himself playing defense instead of setting the conversation. Then came years of public tension with Kanye West, another artist who had helped shape modern hip-hop. Although the two occasionally appeared to reconcile, their relationship remained one of the industry's most talked about rivalries. And in 2024, Drake faced perhaps the most significant challenge of his career. His lyrical battle with Kendrick Lamar dominated headlines, social media, and streaming platforms around the world. The rivalry reignited debates about Drake's legacy and sparked countless discussions among fans over who had come out on top. For many artists, controversies like these could have ended a career. For Drake, they became another chapter in a story that millions of people continued to follow. Because whether people supported him or criticized him, they were still paying attention. And in the entertainment industry, attention is one of the most valuable assets a person can have. But after years of breaking records, building businesses, and surviving controversies, one question remained: how would history remember Drake? Final part. Drake's legacy. From the outside, it's easy to look at Drake's life and see only the success. The sold-out arenas, the luxury homes, the private jet, the hundreds of millions of dollars. But none of those things explain how he got there. His journey wasn't built on one hit song or one lucky opportunity. It was built on years of taking risks. From leaving the security of a successful acting career, to betting everything on music when almost no one believed he could become a star. Then, after reaching the top, he refused to become comfortable. He adapted to every new era of music. He embraced new sounds before they became mainstream. And while many artists focused only on making records, Drake focused on building a brand. That combination of creativity, consistency, and smart business decisions transformed him from an aspiring musician into one of the most successful entertainers of his generation. Of course, his career hasn't been without controversy. Every major superstar faces criticism. Every icon faces competition. And every legend eventually has to prove that their success wasn't temporary. Whether you believe Drake is the greatest rapper of his generation or simply one of its most influential artists, one thing is difficult to deny. He changed the music industry. He helped redefine what a global superstar could look like in the streaming era. And he showed that, in today's world, building wealth isn't just about making great music. It's about creating an empire that can outlive the songs themselves. Because in the end, People won't just remember Drake for the records he broke. They'll remember him as the kid from Toronto who dared to believe he could become something bigger than anyone imagined. And somehow,